Welcome back to the channel. This is the Casuals. I'm Jin.
I'm Saki.
Today's episode is Meal for Two, and we're gonna talk about Pizza Hut, you know, Domino's, whatever, Little Caesars, just the general fast food pizza chain, and other topics that we have to talk about that we did promise you to talk, or we did promise you guys to talk about later, about 2 weeks ago, and we'll touch on that topic later. And if you're wondering why I sound so tired, is because I only slept for 5 hours prior to recording this episode. So today I'm gonna sound a little tired, but I'm still, looking forward toward this episode. And so straight away we're gonna go into this topic just because we don't have that much time. Our other topic is gonna take a lot of time. So fast food pizza, gosh, how do we say this? It's changed a lot over the years. How do you think, has it changed for the better or worse? What do you think?
Um, be honest, I don't eat fast food pizza that often, so I don't really know if it changed for better or worse, to be honest with you.
I see. So in my opinion, it's probably worse in terms of just cost. It's far worse. The amount of pizza that you get for the amount you pay is not worth it anymore, in my opinion. However, I will say the amount of variety when it comes to fast food chain pizza has definitely risen, and I feel like they definitely have tried, um, I guess, quote unquote, modernizing their pizzas. Um, Probably I would say 5, even 6 years, or not even, maybe even 3 years ago. Margarita pizzas were not that common in fast food chains, but now they're pretty common, and it seems like they're like trying to include a lot of, I wouldn't say traditional, but I would say just like
Classics.
classics, yeah. From other regions, I would say, yeah. Um, it's not on par. And this is specifically talking about America. In terms of America fast food pizza chains, the situation is completely different in like Korea, where Domino's is very wild with their pizzas. They have seafood pizza. We don't have that here,
I think
but
that's just a East Asian thing, because in Thailand they also do the seafood pizzas.
yeah, and also the quality is generally higher just because their country is a lot smaller, so they have um, it's easier for them to export more quality ingredients throughout the country than America, where it's freaking huge. And
Quality over
so
quantity.
yeah, and so I don't know. Have you noticed that, even despite your limited time of going out to eat pizza at fast food pizza specifically, have you noticed like the menus changing like that I have noticed?
I did notice like most places in the beginning they'd be like, "Oh yeah, here, create your own like three topping pizzas for this much," you know. But now I've seen a lot of them are like, "Oh, try our quote unquote specialty pizzas," where it's just like it's a pre-made one, so you don't have to like ask everyone, "Hey, what do you want on your pizza?" You just, get like the ultimate meat pizza, which is like pepperoni, sausage, bacon, or whatever all the meats they have, the kind of the preset menu ones.
Definitely. Yeah, that's been more and more common. I remember that back in the day, they wouldn't have that many specialty pizzas, or like they would have like the basics, like pepperoni, cheese, supreme, whatever, and maybe just a few one-offs, and that's about it. But now they've been expanding those specialties, and they still offer build your own pizza, but they definitely expanded on like their like quote unquote unique pizzas that they offer per chain. So I thought that was pretty interesting that they would go in that direction instead of focusing on build your own pizza.
Yeah, I think also a lot of places also expanded away from pizza. Like they do what, like cheese breadsticks or garlic breadsticks or whatever.
A lot
Some
of
places do wings, like chicken wings
yeah,
and stuff now. So
Funny enough, I think Pizza Hut got rid of their wings. They used to offer wings.
Oh,
I
they
think they
still have.
got they still have them. Okay, because it seems like from what I've seen from advertisements, um, which I rarely come across anymore. So I am pretty outdated in my information. Is that from what I've seen, they don't really advertise their sides anymore. If they do, it's usually a combo. So I thought they were
Yeah,
more focused on pizzas more than the sides.
Pizza Hut definitely focuses more on advertising their pizza rather than their like other options like their chicken and the cheese bread or breadsticks or whatever. But what I have seen more recently was, I believe it was Domino's. They're like, oh hey, we got pasta now, we got breadsticks, we got chicken wings, we got all this other stuff. They're trying to. We have like a dessert pizza or like the cookie or some dessert cookie pizza thing.
Wow.
Yeah, I think Domino's is the one that's kind of branching out away from, hey, we got pizzas, but now, hey, look at all this other stuff we have, kind of thing.
Do you think Domino's will be able to succeed in branching out? Because as it seems right now, I don't know. It feels like pizza places, like especially fast food, not local pizzerias. That's a completely different story. But in terms of fast food chain pizzas, um, it seems like they're kind of dying out, pretty rapidly, I would say. And it seems like I guess that's the reason why Domino's is trying to spread out in terms of variety. Do you think Domino's is going to be successful, or do you think they're not going to be successful because they've been known for pizza for so long?
Right now, I think it's a coin toss, because honestly, I haven't seen that many advertisements for any pizza place really lately, so I'm not sure what's happening on that side, but I don't know, just fast food pasta from a pizza place just doesn't sound very good to me.
True. Yeah, it doesn't sound that appealing. And I did mention that on the I did mention that the cost for pizza is also just skyrocketed, which most people don't want to bother with anymore. And that kind of leads us to the next segment where people have been more and more looking into alternatives and from buying fast food chains or even their local pizzeria, depending on if they see it as value or not. Frozen pizza. And we have a lot to talk about in terms of frozen pizza, but we're still dealing with like the details because we'll release more details soon. But right now it's not the right time. But I specifically want to get into something that's been kind of I feel like it's been kind of popular. Not exactly like a fad or anything, but it's just like kind of there. Is those plant-based pizzas, specifically vegan pizzas, or like even just vegetable alternative pizzas where it's fully made out of mainly mostly made out of vegetables. um and I kind of want to talk about plant-based foods overall, but first we're going to talk about plant-based pizza. You said I mentioned this before we prior to recording, and you said you never heard about it, right?
Plant-based pizzas? No, I've heard of a plant-based food, but not like pizza specifically.
And so I mentioned that I had tried basically a plant-based vegan pizza. And I'll be honest with you, it's just okay. Um, the reason being is that so a lot of like the vegan pizzas or like the plant-based pizzas that I've seen use cauliflower as the basis of their crust, right? And really, it's a coin flip as to whether that crust is good or not. And the problem with I would say with cauliflower-based like I guess dough, quote unquote dough, is that um it can be really dry and crumbly, or it could be like almost like dough. So it's really a coin flip of what you're getting out of it. But I would say the taste is pretty okay. Um, in terms of actual like is this good or not overall, I would say it's just kind of about the same that you would expect from like a not like if you don't have any meat on the pizza. I don't know if the cheese is a concern, just because vegan cheese is generally not the greatest, from what I know, and it can get a little complicated with how people view vegan stuff overall. What do you think about just the idea of vegan pizza?
I'm I've had vegetable pizzas, but no, with like a cauliflower crust. So I would say just like a pure vegetable pizza is pretty good. Those are decent, but I don't know how I would feel with a cauliflower crust. I've never had it. I've seen them like at stores and you like make your own pizza at home kind of thing, but I've never really tried it. So I can't really say a whole lot about, the cauliflower crust that you were talking about.
So, as you said, vegetable, like the vegetable toppings, like for a regular pizza, is actually pretty. I particularly don't mind it, and I actually sometimes enjoy it depending on the occasion. So really, the deal breaker here for you would be the crust, right? The cauliflower crust.
Yeah, because like you said, it could be dry. I'm sure it could be dry or crumbly or something like that, depending on like what maybe the brand as well could be a difference.
Yeah, and I feel like because it's the same, it kind of exactly the same in terms of the topping and like the sauce being vegetable. There's not going to be much difference between a regular pizza, a regular like vegetable pizza, and the vegan pizza, right? But the cauliflower would be the deal breaker. So I don't know. Maybe we'll try it one day and give our thoughts. Maybe my opinion will change in like if I try it again, because it has been a while since I've eaten that pizza. Maybe over a year ago or something like that. Um. So moving on from that, I still want to talk about plant-based overall, plant-based food, vegan alternatives. Um, the whole fad about I wouldn't actually no, I wouldn't know if I would call this a fad or not, but at least a general trend to trying to move towards plant-based alternatives, especially for meat. What are your thoughts about it? Because you've told me that you had a lot of thoughts about this kind of stuff.
Oh yeah. So I think one main one is called Beyond Meat, if I'm correct.
Yes, that would be the number one, I guess, brand that mainly people know about.
Okay, so here comes my rant, everyone. With Beyond Meat, yes, it's like for vegans, so it's not actual meat, it's plant-based, which is fine. I don't mind that being a thing at all. Like, go ahead if you need to make that for yourselves, go for it. Just don't. I don't like when people like are like, "Oh yeah, I'm vegan." I'm like, "Yeah, don't really care. No one asked." But with the Beyond Meat, during the pandemic of COVID, in the grocery stores, everything was being bought out. Literally everything. Paper products, eggs, baking, anything. You couldn't find anything. Except Beyond Meat. It was always there. So I'm kind of wondering if it's really worth it because no one's buying it if it's still on the shelves. Everything else is gone. You just in the meat section, chicken, pork, beef, all those are gone except the one little section of Beyond Meat products are still there.
Wow, I did not know that actually.
Yeah, because when the first lockdown came in, no one's allowed to leave. Everything closed down. So people were panic buying. Beyond Meat was always there. Don't know why.
Interesting.
If I don't know if it's just because it was too expensive or just it wasn't worth it, but it was always on the shelves.
That's interesting because my opinion on Beyond Meat is, I wouldn't say it's kind of different from yours. So, I do have a funny story about this with Beyond Meat specifically, but, um, in my general opinion, I do not think badly of Beyond or plant-based meat existing, as an alternative. I think it's a cool thing, but I generally don't think it's ever going to truly serve as an alternative to meat just because meat is so unique in its taste and its uses and its it's just generally, especially when it comes to beef, it's very hard to replicate. Every food is unique in its own way, right? Every ingredient is unique in its own way. There could be some similarities to others, but to say that vegan meat or plant-based meat, which is like made out of mushrooms, primarily made out of mushrooms, to imitate a hamburger, meat patty, I feel like it's kind of hard. It's kind of a far claim type thing where it's like, yeah, it's kind of similar, but anyone would be able to tell the difference, right? And um, as you mentioned, Beyond Meat was left on the shelves during the pandemic when everything else was taken out. I feel like that's just because most people aren't apprehensive. Gosh, I don't think apprehensive is a word to use, but I think most people aren't willing to try plant-based meat just because they don't know what it's like. They're trying. They're kind of too new. They're kind of. It's too. It's still a very new idea in terms of the general market. For vegans, they've known about it for a long time, so they understand what they're getting into and everything. Or like people who are enthusiasts about this kind of stuff. But for the general market, they have little to no idea what it is. They don't. They're like, oh, this is not real meat. Why would I buy this? So I feel like it's kind of a given that they would ignore Beyond Meat on the shelves just because they have no idea what it is, and combined with the fact that they all people usually only buy what they're used to. It's kind of actually rare in terms of food that they would buy things outside of their I would say quote unquote comfort zone, in my opinion. So yeah, that's my thoughts about Beyond Meat. And
I do have one
oh
little thought to throw in there for you.
oh please
For
do share.
All right, so with Beyond Meat, they're trying to, imitate meat, right? Like a
Yes.
burger. Like I've seen burger patties. They're trying to imitate the taste of, a meat burger, a beef patty, right?
Yes.
So, if they're trying to promote this Beyond Meat so much that they're like, you know what? It tastes like regular meat, right? It, we're trying to make it taste like regular meat. Why not just eat the regular meat? Like, it's kind of like a checkmate to themselves. They're like making meat. They're trying to imitate meat. Just eat the meat. Like, why are you trying to imitate something that's already there? They're like,
So,
we don't want to eat meat, but we want it to be meat. You know what I'm
so
saying? Saying it's
yes.
kind of like what?
So the whole conundrum about eating meat in the first place is the moral dilemma of the treatment of animals. I'm not gonna get into like my whole opinion about what's right or what's wrong or what I generally think. I don't want to really get into that just because it's such a heated topic, I would say. Um, but generally, what comes to the argument is that there are people who do enjoy the taste of meat, right? It is generally, meat tastes good generally to most people. However, there are people who, have this moral dilemma of, well, even though it tastes great, right? The treatment of these animals, which has been proven many, many times over and over again, that the treatment of these animals are usually horrific in terms of like like the conditions that they're put under into in terms of because United States is a massive powerhouse when it comes to producing meat, right? But you cannot produce that amount of meat naturally. So you have to go through other means of producing meat, and that means um, unnatural ways of growing mass amounts of livestock, right? And so their protest comes from mainly the treatment of these animals. So when Beyond Meat exists as an alternative to actual meat, it is mainly trying to address the that moral dilemma of you don't want to contribute to that machine that is the whole you know mass production of meat through other means of not so great ways of treatment of animals through that mass production. And so that came about as an alternative originally to meat. And nowadays, people are also arguing in favor of alternative meat specifically is the amount of resources it takes to make one. And so raising a cow takes a frick ton of water. Um, so much water. I forget just how much water it is. It's a ridiculous amount of water that it takes just to raise a cow, whether it's for milking, whether it's for meat or something like that. I'm not gonna get into the whole specifics of that, but people are generally, there has been study done, and yes, you do use a lot less resources to make an alternative based meat, plant based meat, compared to regular beef. So that is why I would say, you know, it is being marketed as it tastes like beef, despite generally most people would think, well, if I wanted to eat meat, if I wanted to eat something that tastes like meat, I'm just gonna buy meat, right? But it's generally for those who are within that moral dilemma that wants to switch into vegan, but like they do like the taste of meat. It's not like most people start off veganism right off their birth. You know, they usually make that change later into their lives, where they generally have tasted meat and know what it tastes like. So, yeah, that is why it exists. And I don't know if you still feel like that's kind of like a dumb reason. If you feel like, well, if your reason still stands is if I want to eat something that tastes like meat, I'm just gonna buy meat. So I don't know. What do you
I was
think?
have a couple thoughts. One, this is just literally just for fun. It's not like to poke at anything mean. It's literally just for, laughs. But it's like, I'm sorry, I'm laughing at myself right now because I'm thinking of it. Um, you know how you said it takes a lot of resources, to make for cows, right?
Yeah.
We're killing those cows so you vegans can have your grass. You're welcome. It's just for fun. It's not a real thing. I just thought of that. I'm
Jesus.
like, that's pretty funny. So, anyways, off that topic,
Gosh.
off that topic. Yeah. So I was just confused with the Beyond Meat because it's like they're trying to make it into meat, and I'm just like, that's fine. I don't mind you guys doing that, but what I don't like with vegan stuff, especially like the people, I don't mind vegan people. You want to be vegan, thumbs up to you, great. Don't shove it down other people's throat.
I see what you mean. I
Like,
genuinely,
yeah. Don't try to change people. Just be like, hey, I believe my belief, I don't want to eat meat. But don't be like, hey, I don't eat meat, so you shouldn't eat meat too. It's just like, why?
funny enough,
It's your thing. I just don't like that part of
I
the vegan
feel
stuff.
like that's actually a minority of people who actually do that. Like minority of the vegan community. Um and that's just because most of them feel like they need to be outspoken, and they generally do feel like there is a need to spread awareness about the treatment of animals through life, or especially livestock's, just the harsh conditions that they're under, and generally very wrong conditions, and I would agree with them. However, um, as time has progressed, society has gotten less and less adept at communicating ideas properly. And so when they want to communicate, hey, there is like a moral issue here of the treatment of animals, instead of saying it more, I guess, concise, logically, and, presenting their ideas so that other people may accept them in a more, reasonable way, they just kind of yell it out and say, hey, what you're doing is wrong. And because I said it, you should turn into veganism. I feel like you run into those people a lot more than that would usually exist, just because the outspoken ones are usually the ones that don't know how to communicate properly. I don't know. How do you feel about that? If the idea of that kind of exists, or not the idea of that, but like generally, I feel like that's what it is. And do you think that's true?
Yeah, like again, I don't mind. Like, you want to be like, hey, guess what? Animals are being treated poorly. Here's some, facts and stuff behind it. If you want to support us, please. If not, we tried. We tried tell you some things, but it didn't work on you. So it's like you can't do anything. Don't be like, I'm a vegan, you need to be vegan too. You're wrong, I'm right. I don't like that. That's just like that's just a horrible way to do things. It's just at least for me, I'm just more of a analytical type person and a logic based person, so I don't know.
I agree with you with that sentiment. I generally don't like it if you try saying that, hey, it's wrong, so you shouldn't be doing it either. I think people are more and more aware about like the treatment of livestock in general. But it's a very complicated issue, and you can't just simply say, hey, you're in the wrong for eating something like that, or for eating meat, right? And it's like, hey, you need to be vegan. I'm right. You're wrong, right? Most
Yeah.
vegans I have met personally, they usually just mention I'm vegan as a one-off, just because when we're eating out food or something, they just need to, they have to mention it because they don't want to eat, right? So they're just like, they quickly say, hey, I'm vegan, just to let you know, heads up, and then usually we accommodate them, and they wouldn't say anything else further. They just let us know, and we go with it. We don't really question it, because it is their choice to be vegan. We're not gonna be like, hey, you should eat meat. Most people aren't a-holes about that kind of stuff. Obviously, as I say again, there are gonna be some people like that in the world, where they're gonna, like, stomp all over veganism, be like, ha ha ha, like, your thing sucks, it doesn't taste good, why eat trash? There's people like that existing there on both sides, essentially. um I feel like the people that you talked about, Saki, are the people who are on the internet the most. That's
Probably.
why I'm saying. That's why I'm saying that's where the loud minority is, because I'm pretty sure, like, as I said before, most vegans I met, they don't really talk about the moral dilemma. They just mention that they're vegan. That's it. They don't talk about it any further, because they know that there's no point in trying to convince people to turn into veganism unless someone themselves are interested in veganism in the first place.
Hmm. I have one other little thought. How you said the people you meet, they just go, hey, I'm vegan, just put it out there, so
Yeah.
it's just kind of weird. It's like if I just meet some random person through a friend and they'll go, hey, my name's whatever, and I'm vegan, and I'll be like, hi, I didn't really ask that you're a vegan, and I don't really care that
Mm.
you're vegan. It's like, why do they have to announce they're vegan? You're not even like going out to eat or anything. They're just like, hey, my name's blank. I'm vegan. I'm like, no one asked. That just came out of nowhere. We're like, at, let's just say, like a Target or a Walmart or something, and they're like, hey, I'm vegan. I'm like, okay, so ask. Like, why do they have to announce it to the world? It's just like, I get it if you're gonna be like with a group of friends and you're like meeting them for the first time. They're like, "Hey, we're gonna all go eat. You want to join?" You're like, "Yeah, my name's blah blah blah. Nice to meet you guys. By the way, I'm vegan. So if we go to a restaurant, if they can have vegetarian, vegan options, that's fine. If you're going to like a restaurant, but it's just like meeting at like a park. Hey, my name's Timmy. I'm vegan. I'm like, yeah, okay. So no one asked. It's just so random. Like, why do you guys have to announce it?
Yeah, so I've never encountered that, funny enough, people doing that to me. Um so I find that really strange that they would do that. I'm in the same agreement with you. That's really strange. Why on earth would you introduce that you're vegan right away if you're not gonna go out and eat food? The people who've said that they were vegan to me, they only ever mentioned it once when we were going out to eat food. Because they
Yeah,
have
to
to let
me.
us know.
Yeah, exactly. That's fine. I understand that. You're gonna go eat. You don't want, you want to have everyone to be happy, with a restaurant that has, vegan and meat options. That's
Yeah.
fine. But yeah, like I remember one of my friends in college, we were literally just like waiting for our class to start. You know how professors go in, then all the students walk into the class, sit down or whatever, introduce themselves.
Yeah.
So I was just, waiting for class, and just one of my friends was in my class, and she's like, "Oh, this is my friend," and she says, "Yeah, hi, my name's blank. I'm vegan," and I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Where did that come from?" I'm like, "We're going into a classroom, like a history class, and you're like, hey, I'm vegan." I'm like, "Okay,
you
so."
you
Like,
got stun locked.
I got stun locked. I'm like, "What the hell does that have to do with anything?" I don't care you're
Uh
vegan. It's just so random. They like have to announce to the world, like, "Hey, I'm vegan. Don't forget it, guys."
I guess there are strange people like that. That treat it, I guess, kind of like a personality thing. Although I don't think that's really a personality. That's just a lifestyle more than a
Yeah,
personality. So
yeah, it's a
that's
lifestyle.
really weird. So we're getting close to the end of our episode. I just want to end this episode with the story that I have with Beyond Meat specifically. I didn't get to it because we switched topics a little bit, but I think it's perfect story to end it off. And I think I might have told you the story before with Beyond Me. I don't remember if I did, but I think it's pretty funny that what happened with Beyond Me. So I went to Sprouts, a local Sprouts near me, you know, to buy some eggs. My mom, was like, "Hey, can you buy some eggs?" I'm like, "Okay." And then, I went out to buy some eggs. Yada yada yada. Went out to buy some eggs, and I was browsing through the aisles, and I happened to see Beyond Meat there, like the, I think it was the beef patty, right? Like you mentioned, they have beef patties,
Yeah.
and so I was like, why not try it? It's not gonna be like a terrible thing to try. Um, so I was just like, might as well pick one up and try it. If I like it, I like it. And if it costs less than your traditional patties, which, spoiler, it did not cost less. It's pretty damn expensive in general. Um, maybe that'll open new roads, for me to try. I was always down, I was always open to trying, Beyond Me. I just never got around to doing it just because I'm usually not the one buying food for the house. So I'm not the one that's going out to, encounter this Beyond Meat. And so I went out, put it in the cart, checked out, got into my car, started driving home, right? And then got home and I started taking out all the groceries, which was just like the eggs and a few other stuff. And as I was taking it, I was just like, something's missing. And I look in the bag, and the Beyond Meat's not there. Turns out, as I was checking out from the cashier, I left it at the cashier. Just the Beyond Meat, nothing else. I had everything else but the Beyond Meat. I don't know
See,
how that happened.
it was telling you something, man. It was like, I don't know. He's like, leave me here. Don't do it. Leave me.
You see in the receipt, I clearly paid for the Beyond Meat, but it ain't in my shopping bag. So I was like, do I really want to drive back and, awkwardly explain to cashier that I forgot the Beyond Meat? I should have, just because, one, it's money that I spent, but two, I was just like, I'm not gonna, like, it's not the end of the world. It was just kind of like a thing I wanted to explore. And, like, oh well, I guess. I'm too lazy to go back out. I was just like, nah, I'm not gonna go back. So I ended up leaving. That poor cashier must have been so confused that I left the Beyond Meat there just laying there. I don't know where I left it, but I left it at the cashier apparently. It wasn't in my car. So it was literally just in the, what's it called? It was left at Sprouts. That's it. I paid for it and left it there. So in the end, I never got to try the Beyond Meat patty. I have tried other Beyond, like the Beyond Meat burger at a Burger King or whatever. Tasted pretty fine actually. Tell you what, but it's not a healthy alternative, to be honest, like they market it as. That's complete lies. But yeah, like I never got to try the Beyond Meat patty itself, due to that incident. And then soon after, I think it was after that incident, this was during the pandemic. Like I rarely went out anyways, so it became even more rare for me to go out again, just due to the pandemic. So I never really went back to buy the Beyond Meat. And now that I recall, I've only been to Sprouts like maybe 2 more times, and I completely forgot about the Beyond Meat those 2 times that I went again after that point. But yeah, that was my story of buying Beyond Meat and then leaving it at the grocery store, due to my own stupidity. And with that, that is going to be the end of this episode. That was quite a bit of a talk about, plant-based alternatives and, just
Veganism in general.
veganism in general. And to be clear, both of us don't, dislike veganism. We just think it's strange how people who announce that they're vegans and, I would say the loud minority where they try taking the moral high ground against others is just strange overall and kind of annoying. And I think most people would share the same sentiments with us. We're cool with veganism. I feel like it's maybe it's a thing that we could explore later on in terms of the cuisine in our future and we can talk about. But yeah, that was today's episode, and next week, we're gonna change things up again, um, specifically because we haven't talked about places we've been. That was a segment that I completely forgot about. That's to my own fault. And so that was supposed to be our third topic for our rotation. So there was supposed to be 3 topics original rotations, but like for the past, I would say 5 weeks, 6 weeks, I accidentally only had 2 topics, which was meal for 2 and time we're not getting back. So that was my mistake on my part. But next week should we should upload a new completely different topic for like the episode. So that is the end of the episode. So I'll end it off here. I'm Jin,
And I'm Saki.
and this has been The Casuals, and we'll see you next week. Bye bye.